Hello, my name is Stephen Redman and welcome again to an episode of Pastor's Library. This is where we discuss everything to do with theology books, be those books that may have been on a reading list for a seminary course, for a bachelor's or master's degrees in biblical studies or in biblical theology, whether or not something has just spiked your interest through an internet advert or because of something you've seen in your pastor's office. Today, I want us to go back to a subject we visited a few weeks ago, which is commentaries on 1 Corinthians. I want to make a correction and I want to give you a little bit more information. If you like what we have to say, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to click on the bell, and that way you'll hear when we launch another episode. No other communication will be entered into unless, of course, you drop us a line in the comments below, and then you will hear a response to that. So, a few weeks ago, I did a discussion of commentaries on 1 Corinthians. And it was a difficult one for me because I had an outright winner for myself, which was the New International Commentary on the New Testament by Gordon Fee, First Epistle to the Corinthians, which is an absolutely fabulous commentary, but was written in 1987, which just puts it a little bit lower than most universities will tolerate for critical quotations. And so, most Bible colleges, Bible study institutions, universities recommend that you study books that are primarily written in the last 30 years, and that is because the highest level of academic rigour can be found in them. For example, I've recently done another episode on the ICC, the International Critical Commentary, and the truth is, I found when looking at those that some of them were actually very poor. One or two of them were excellent, but those tended to be the very few more recent models. And the truth is that when you have things written from the more liberal era, which thank God we have largely put clear blue water between ourselves and that era now, you are likely to get more suspicious comments. So, Gordon Fee wrote this book in 1987, 880 pages. It has been for many years the go-to 1 Corinthians commentary. What I didn't know when I did that video, and this just shows Pastor's Library isn't perfect, is two of you contacted me and said, but there's a revision from 2014. For which I'm very grateful because I was able to purchase that. And the truth is, it's a major revision. This book is 982 pages. That's 102 pages larger. Roughly speaking, 10% bigger. And that is 10% is always a major update. Gordon Fee, in 2014, when this came to press, he had been working on finishing this for a couple of years when it was already 25 years old. And he says that in 1978, when the NIV came out in its original form, that 1 Corinthians was one of the most poorly translated books. And in 1990, Gordon Fee was invited to join the translation committee. He had access to the full new version of the 2011 NIV a year before this book went to press. So he was able to edit out 20 footnotes regarding what he believed to be erroneous translations, which are no longer there. So with 20 footnotes less, this is still 100 pages more. And you have to ask yourself, how does that happen? Well, firstly, can I say the two books look very similar in depth? And that's because the later one is printed on a slightly thinner paper. you can feel that if you run your fingers through both books. But I have to say to you, this revised edition is on very good quality paper. It is an excellent product and it is well worth buying. Besides which, I can quote this now for years to come. So I'm very, very pleased about that. I think it's worth saying that also Fee refers to the over 300% growth in journal articles and other relevant books on 1 Corinthians in the 25 years between the first and the second edition. And he says that that 300% growth is over the previous 2 centuries, which tells you there's a lot more being written about 1 Corinthians. And, to say we've got everything in books that were written 100 years ago is just simply not true. And I would suggest that even having this for its updated bibliography, which is substantially larger and longer than the original version, even that makes it worth it. So, what I would say to you is there are significant changes throughout this book. It isn't that there are certain things he's gone in and written about. He looks to me like he has written about most subjects. Many sections you can read through and you can think, yeah, that's exactly what was in the original. But roughly 10% throughout has been upgraded. There have been significant changes to his section on people of the Spirit, on the gifts of the Spirit, on edification, significant levels of change in his dealing with the resurrection of the dead. Almost every section has had an impact. And I have to say, that to me is a real revised edition. To just say, oh, well, I realise I didn't do that well and didn't do that well, and I've just replaced those couple of things. That isn't a real revised edition. It's helpful, but this, with 10% more words, with 102 more pages, this is a real revised edition where everything has been touched. So, what I would say to you is, I'm very pleased to have this now. I'm very grateful to a couple of my subscribers who told me about this, and I slightly am a little bit amazed that I'd missed that. But of course, in the UK, we live in a country where seeing these on a bookshelf in a shop would be more or less impossible. We have virtually no Christian bookshops left in the UK. So unless you are looking online and you pick up that there are 2 Amazon pages for this product now, one for the original, one for the revised edition, and unless you actually are looking for a revised edition, you would miss it. And so that's my rubbish excuse for not knowing. But I am grateful to those that took the time to say something. So please do comment if you have something to say. But what I would say to you is I am now, without apology, I really believe that this is the best commentary to have on 1 Corinthians, although I still like Thistleton. And my previous video stands. It's just this is the one I would now be talking about. So thank you for listening. I hope you've liked this. If you have, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, click on the bell, and I hope to see you next time on Pastor's Library. Until then, bye!